The soft hum of advanced machinery filled the vast chamber of the Galactic Council's primary meeting hall. Countless stars twinkled through the transparent dome above, casting gentle light on the assembled alien dignitaries below. At the center of attention stood High Admiral Jinho, his tall, slender frame casting a long shadow across the holographic display that dominated the room. Jinho's antennae twitched irritably as he studied the rotating image of a blue-green planet. His metallic skin reflected the hologram's light, creating shifting patterns across his face. To him, this was just another waste of the Council's valuable time, a routine survey of yet another uninhabitable death world. Esteemed members of the Council, Jinho's voice carried across the chamber, each word dripping with barely hidden contempt. We have more pressing matters than this insignificant planet. Our initial scans show conditions that would make life impossible for any civilized species. The assembled council members murmured among themselves, their various appendages and sensory organs moving in ways that showed their agreement. They had seen countless such worlds before, planets that only the most primitive of life forms could possibly inhabit. Senior researcher Hannah sat at her designated spot, her scaled fingers moving swiftly across her data pad as she reviewed the incoming information. Unlike her peers, she found something fascinating about this particular world. Her species' equivalent of a frown formed on her face as she studied the readings. "High Admiral," she spoke up, her voice clear and steady, despite the intimidating presence of the Council's military leader. "With all due respect, our sensors are detecting artificial satellites in orbit around the planet. We're also picking up radio signals, complex ones." Jinho turned toward her, his antennae now rigid with annoyance. "Researcher Hannah, surely you're not suggesting that an advanced species could evolve in such hostile conditions?" His voice carried a note of mockery that made several council members chuckle. Hannah remained unfazed. She stood up, her scales shifting color slightly with excitement as she projected additional data onto the main display. "The gravity on this planet is 9.8 times stronger than our standard comfortable range. The atmosphere contains highly reactive oxygen. Yes, actual free oxygen. The temperature variations are extreme, ranging from freezing to burning across different regions. And yet," she paused, highlighting several areas on the planet's surface. "These are artificial structures. They're crude by our standards, but they're definitely constructed by intelligent beings. The radio signals we're receiving show patterns consistent with language and data transmission." Jinho waved one of his upper limbs dismissively. "Clearly, our sensors are malfunctioning. No species could survive, let alone develop technology, in such conditions. The gravity alone would crush any intelligent life form before it could evolve past the simplest stages." Other council members nodded in agreement. One particularly ancient member, their skin a maze of wrinkles and their eyes clouded with age, spoke up. "In all my centuries of exploration, I've never seen any advanced species emerge from such a hostile environment. It goes against everything we know about evolution and civilization." Hannah felt frustration building inside her, but she maintained her professional composure. "Sir, with permission, I would like to conduct a more detailed survey. Something about this planet is different. The signals we're receiving, they're not random, and they're not natural phenomena." "You're wasting your time and council resources," Jinho stated flatly. "Mark it as an anomaly in the records and let's move on to actual important matters. We have 3 new species requesting membership in the Council, and 2 trade disputes that need our attention." As the other council members began gathering their materials and preparing to move on to the next agenda item, Hannah quietly accessed her personal terminal. Her fingers moved quickly as she filed an official request for a detailed survey mission. She made sure to mark it as a low-priority scientific study, something that wouldn't attract too much attention from the military or political branches of the Council. Looking up at the hologram one last time before it faded away, Hannah couldn't shake the feeling that they were making a massive mistake. Something about those radio signals, the pattern of the satellites, The way the artificial structures were distributed across the planet's surface, it all hinted at something unprecedented. As she gathered her own materials, Hannah's mind was already racing with plans for the survey mission. She would need to select a crew capable of handling high-gravity environments, design special shielding for the corrosive atmosphere, and develop new sensor arrays capable of penetrating the planet's unusual magnetic field. The council chamber gradually emptied, its members moving on to what they considered more important matters. But Hannah lingered, watching as the last traces of Earth's hologram faded away. Something intelligent lived on that death world, something that had not only survived, but had built civilization in conditions that the Council considered impossible. And she was determined to find out what it was, no matter what High Admiral Jinho or anyone else thought about it. Little did any of them know that this seemingly routine survey would soon shake the foundations of the Galactic Council's understanding of life, intelligence, and the very nature of civilization itself. The blue-green planet they so casually dismissed would soon prove to be home to one of the most remarkable and terrifying species the galaxy had ever encountered. 3 months had passed since Hannah had quietly launched her investigation of the mysterious blue planet. Her research vessel, the Stellar Observer, maintained a careful position in high orbit, using advanced cloaking technology to avoid detection by the primitive sensors they expected to find below. The ship's crew worked tirelessly, collecting data about this supposedly impossible world and its inhabitants. Hannah spent most of her time in the observation deck, watching the planet rotate beneath them. She had seen many worlds in her career, but something about this one fascinated her more than any other. The swirling white clouds, vast blue oceans, and patches of green and brown land seemed to hide countless mysteries. The ship's sensors worked overtime, gathering information about everything from atmospheric composition to population centers. Each new piece of data seemed to challenge everything the Galactic Council believed about the development of intelligent life. Jai-1, her second-in-command, had been coordinating the research teams. He was young for his position, but Hannah had chosen him specifically for his open mind and attention to detail. When he burst into her quarters that morning, his scales had turned a bright shade of blue, a sign of extreme excitement in their species. Senior researcher Jai-1 could barely contain himself as he activated the room's holographic projector. "You need to see this immediately." The air filled with images, thousands of them, showing various aspects of life on the planet below. Cities stretched across vast distances, their structures reaching toward the sky. Vehicles moved in organized patterns through the air, on the ground, and even under the seas. Massive vessels carried goods across the oceans, while others launched into space carrying satellites and exploration equipment. "They're not just surviving here," Jai-1 explained, his voice filled with wonder. "They're thriving. Look at these cities. They've built them everywhere, in frozen regions, in deserts, in places where the air is so thin it should be impossible to breathe." Hannah moved through the images, her experienced eyes taking in every detail. She stopped at one showing a city in what appeared to be a frozen wasteland. "How are they managing this? The temperature readings here are well below freezing." "That's just it," Jai-1 replied, pulling up more data. "They've developed technologies to modify their environment. They heat their buildings, cool them when it's hot, filter their air, and purify their water. They've adapted their surroundings to suit their needs instead of being limited by them." The images shifted to show various human activities. People exercising in what appeared to be artificially controlled environments, others diving deep beneath the ocean's surface, and still others climbing to the tops of mountains that should have been impossible to survive on. "And look at this," Jai-1 continued, displaying images of various space missions. "They've already sent primitive probes to several planets in their system. They've even landed on their moon and sent robotic explorers to neighboring planets. Their technology is advancing at an incredible rate." Hannah studied the data with growing amazement. "They live in every climate zone," she marveled, her voice barely above a whisper, "from frozen wastelands to burning deserts. How is this possible? The Council said no species could evolve to handle such extreme variations. Their adaptability appears to be unprecedented. Jai-1 agreed. We've recorded them surviving in temperatures ranging from -50 to +50 degrees on their scale. They build homes in places where the air is so thin most species would suffocate, and in valleys so deep the pressure would crush our strongest vessels. He pulled up another set of readings, and their physical capabilities. They can run for hours in high gravity, lift many times their body weight, and heal from injuries that would kill most species. Some of them deliberately expose themselves to extreme conditions just for entertainment. Should we alert the Council? Jai-1 asked, his scales shifting to a more serious shade. This definitely contradicts everything they assumed about this world. Hannah was quiet for a long moment, considering the implications. If they reported this now, the Council might panic and do something rash. High Admiral Jin-Ho, in particular, would likely see this developing species as a potential threat. Not yet, she finally replied, her voice firm. Let's gather more information first. We need to understand how they've accomplished all this. We need to study their history, their culture, their way of thinking. There's something unique about these beings, something we've never encountered before. She turned back to the images of human cities glowing in the night, of ships crossing vast oceans, of rockets reaching for the stars. For now, we observe and we learn. The Council dismissed this world as a death trap, but these humans, they turned it into something remarkable. As Hannah and Jai-1 continued their analysis, neither of them fully realized that they were witnessing something unprecedented in galactic history. The beings they were studying weren't just surviving against impossible odds. They were preparing, unknowingly, to take their place among the stars. And when they did, the galaxy would never be the same. The grand chamber of the Galactic Council buzzed with tension as Council historian Tai-Ho stood before the assembled representatives. The same room that had dismissed Earth months ago now sat in stunned silence as images of human technological progress flashed across the massive display screens. Tai-Ho's tentacles moved gracefully as he manipulated the holographic controls, showing the rapid evolution of human technology. Distinguished members of the Council, what you are witnessing is unprecedented in our recorded history. 3 centuries ago, these humans were using primitive steam engines and basic mechanical devices. He pulled up an image of an early automobile, then quickly transitioned through increasingly advanced vehicles until reaching modern fusion-powered craft. Within 1 century, they progressed from basic combustion engines to powered flight. Within 2, they had split the atom and begun exploring space. Now, they stand on the brink of discovering faster-than-light travel. The chamber erupted with concerned murmurs. A representative from the crystalline worlds, their forms shimmering with anxiety, raised a light appendage. But surely this must be a mistake. No species could advance so quickly without outside help. Tai-Ho's expression remained serious as he displayed more data. We have found no evidence of external intervention. This is entirely their own achievement. They appear to possess an unusual drive to improve and innovate, especially in response to challenges. But at least they must be peaceful, asked Council Member Rinji, her bioluminescent patches pulsing with hope. No species that evolved on such a challenging world would waste precious resources on conflict. Survival alone would require all their effort. The historian's expression grew even more grim as he brought up new images, scenes of warfare throughout human history. I wish that were true, honored Council Member. But their history contains more conflict than any species we have ever encountered. Images of battles filled the screens, from ancient warriors with primitive weapons to modern armies with devastating technology. The Council members watched in horror as scenes of human warfare played out before them. What makes them truly unique, Tai-Ho continued, is not just their capacity for violence, but how they respond to it. Each conflict drives them to greater innovations. They developed flight, then immediately applied it to warfare. They discovered nuclear power, and within years had created weapons of unprecedented destruction. An elder council member, his scales dulled with age, spoke up. Surely they destroyed themselves with such weapons. No species could survive their own destructive capability. That's what makes them even more remarkable, Taiho replied. They developed these weapons, used them once, and then stopped. They keep them as deterrents while continuing to advance their technology in other ways. They learn from their mistakes, but they don't let the fear of failure stop them from pushing forward. He displayed more recent data. They've taken the same technologies they developed for war and adapted them for peaceful purposes. Their military research has led to advances in medicine, space exploration, and energy production. They don't just survive hardship, they seem to thrive on it. The council chamber erupted in worried whispers. Representatives from various species huddled together, discussing the implications of this information. Some were already drafting messages to their homeworlds, while others demanded immediate action. There's more, Taiho said, his voice cutting through the chaos. Their information technology is advancing at an exponential rate. They're on the verge of true artificial intelligence. Their understanding of genetic engineering is progressing rapidly, and they're beginning to harvest energy in ways we thought impossible for their level of development. High Admiral Jinho, who had dismissed Earth months ago, now sat rigid in his seat. How did we miss this? How did they advance so far without our notice? Because we made assumptions, Taiho answered. We assumed no intelligent life could evolve in such conditions. We assumed any species from a death world would be primitive and limited. We assumed wrong. He brought up one final image. A view of Earth at night, its surface glittering with countless lights, its orbit crowded with satellites and space stations. They're not just surviving on their death world. They're mastering it. And soon, they'll be looking to the stars. The question we must ask ourselves is, what happens when they find us? The chamber fell silent as the implications sank in. They had discovered a species that had not only survived conditions they thought impossible, but had turned those very challenges into advantages. A species that grew stronger through conflict, that learned from its mistakes without being crippled by them, and that appeared to have an insatiable drive to expand and explore. As the council began its heated debate about how to handle this situation, none of them realized that their time for simple observation was running out. Humanity was advancing faster than anyone had predicted, and soon they would make their presence known to the galaxy, whether the council was ready or not. The bridge of the flagship, Star Sovereign, gleamed with advanced technology as Fleet Commander Sunmei paced back and forth, her crystalline armor catching the light from nearby Earth. Her fleet of 20 warships hung in high orbit, their weapons primed and ready. The Stellar Kingdom, though small, had built its reputation on swift, decisive actions while the larger powers debated. These humans need to learn their place in the galactic hierarchy, Sunmei declared to her bridge crew. Her voice carried the confidence of someone who had never lost a battle. The council wastes time with endless discussions while a potential threat grows unchecked. Minho, her tactical officer, studied the sensor readings of Earth below. His expression showed concern, but he kept his doubts to himself. Years of service had taught him when to stay quiet. Begin the display, Sunmei ordered, her voice sharp with authority. Position our ships over their largest population centers. Power up all weapon systems, but do not activate targeting locks. Let them see our might. The fleet moved with practiced precision, spreading out across Earth's sky. Their massive ships, each the size of a small city, cast enormous shadows over major metropolitan areas. The sight would have been terrifying to any primitive species, a show of force designed to inspire fear and submission. A calm human voice filled the bridge. Stellar Kingdom vessels, this is Earth Defense Command. We appreciate you dropping by to say hello, but it's considered polite to call ahead first. Would you like to rethink your current course of action, or should we demonstrate why it's unwise to pick fights with Deathworlders? The bridge crew turned to Sunmei, waiting for her response. Her reputation, Her career and possibly the lives of her entire crew hung on her next decision. The humans had not only matched their show of force, but had revealed capabilities far beyond what anyone had expected. "Commander," Minho said quietly, "preliminary analysis suggests their weapons technology might actually be superior to ours in several areas. They've been hiding their true capabilities. This isn't a primitive species we're dealing with. They're a technological power that chose to remain hidden." Sunma stared at the tactical display, watching as more human ships emerged from concealed positions. Her attempt to intimidate Earth had instead revealed just how dangerous humans could be. And worse, they seemed to be enjoying the encounter. "Signal the fleet," she finally ordered, her voice tight with suppressed emotion. "Begin withdrawal procedures. Tactical, record everything. The Council needs to know what we've discovered here." As the Stellar Kingdom's ships carefully backed away from Earth, Sunmei couldn't shake the feeling that she had just made a terrible mistake. She had intended to put humans in their place, but instead, she had revealed their place to the galaxy, and it was far higher in the hierarchy than anyone had imagined. The emergency council session had been called within hours of the Stellar Kingdom's failed show of force. The chamber was packed with representatives from every major galactic civilization, their usual formal seating arrangements forgotten as they crowded closer to hear Research Director Ju Yun's presentation. The massive screens displayed human historical events, psychological studies, and behavioral patterns. Ju Yun stood at the center of it all, her research team's findings spread out before her. The usual calm scientist now showed signs of both excitement and concern as she addressed the council. "Honored members," she began, "we've spent decades studying various intelligent species across the galaxy. We thought we understood how advanced civilizations develop and behave. But humans break every pattern we've established." She brought up images of human achievements, displaying them alongside the harsh conditions they faced. "It's not just their technology we misunderstood. Their entire psychology is unlike anything we've encountered before." High Admiral Jinho, who had dismissed Earth months ago, now leaned forward intently. His earlier arrogance had been replaced by grave concern after the Stellar Kingdom's report. "Explain," he demanded, his voice carrying across the chamber. "They have concepts we've never encountered in any other species," Ju Yun continued, bringing up linguistic and behavioral data. "Take what they call spite, for instance. They will deliberately endure hardship and sacrifice valuable resources, not for survival or gain, but simply to prove others wrong." Confused murmurs filled the chamber. A representative from the Logic Collective spoke up, their mechanical voice betraying confusion. "This behavior appears to defy rational thought. Why would any species intentionally choose a harder path?" "Exactly," Ju Yun replied, her excitement growing. "And that's just the beginning. They have this concept called determination. The worse their odds become, the harder they fight. Where other species would retreat or submit when faced with superior force, humans seem to become more resistant." She displayed footage from human historical records. "Look at their conflicts. Time and again, smaller human forces have defeated larger ones, not through superior technology or resources, but through sheer stubborn refusal to give up." The council chamber fell silent as the implications sank in. Jinho's antennae twitched nervously. "Are you suggesting they're irrational?" "No, that's what makes them even more remarkable," Ju Yun explained. "They combine these seemingly irrational traits with highly advanced strategic thinking. They don't just fight harder when challenged. They get creative. They innovate. They find solutions no other species would even consider." She brought up more recent data. When the Stellar Kingdom tried to intimidate them, they didn't just reveal their hidden defenses. They turned the entire encounter into what they call a joke. They found humor in being threatened by a superior force. "Who does that?" A senior council member raised a trembling appendage. "Surely this makes them unstable. Dangerous." "They are dangerous," Ju Yun agreed, "but not unstable. They channel these traits incredibly effectively. Look at their entertainment. They create artificial challenges for themselves. They climb mountains not because they need to, but because they're there. They solve puzzles for fun. They intentionally restrict themselves in games to make them more challenging. The displays showed humans participating in various extreme sports and challenging activities. They deliberately seek out difficulty. They have this saying, "What doesn't kill you makes you stronger." They actually believe that facing and overcoming hardship improves them as individuals and as a species. Jinho's face had grown increasingly pale, and we just attempted to threaten them with force. Yes, Ju Yun confirmed, which leads to another unique human trait. They tend to unite against external threats. Their history shows countless examples of feuding human groups immediately setting aside their differences to face a common enemy. She pulled up the final slides of her presentation. We need to completely revise our approach to Earth. Everything we assumed about how an intelligent species should behave, how they should develop, what should motivate them, none of it applies to humans. They don't just survive their death world. They love it. They don't just overcome challenges. They actively seek them out. The council chamber remained silent for several long moments as the implications sank in. They had discovered a species that not only survived conditions they thought impossible, but actually thrived on challenge and adversity. A species that combined irrational determination with rational planning, that found humor in danger, and that grew stronger when threatened. "What do you recommend?" Jin Ho finally asked, his voice barely above a whisper. Ju Yun looked around the chamber, meeting the eyes and sensory organs of each council member. "We need to approach them as equals, not as primitives to be guided or threats to be contained. Because if we make enemies of humans, they won't just fight back. They'll probably enjoy proving us wrong." The council chamber erupted in urgent discussions as members debated this revelation. They had thought they were dealing with a primitive species on a death world. Instead, they had found something entirely new. A species that turned adversity into advantage, that found strength in struggle, and that might just change the galaxy forever. The alarms across Earth's defense network blared to life as the Stellar Kingdom's fleet dropped out of hyperspace. Sun Mai had returned, but this time she hadn't come to make threats. Her ships immediately opened fire, their energy weapons lighting up Earth's night sky. "Show these primitives what real power looks like," Sun Mai commanded from her flagship's bridge. Her crew, bound by loyalty and military discipline, followed her orders despite their obvious concerns. The first wave of attacks struck Earth's outer defense satellites, destroying several of them in brilliant explosions. But Earth had been waiting for this. Before the light from the first explosions had faded, humanity's response began. Hidden defense platforms emerged from their camouflaged positions. Ground-based weapon systems powered up. And then something happened that made Sun Mai's blood run cold. Space itself seemed to tear open as human warships emerged from hyperspace. Technology that the Stellar Kingdom's intelligence had claimed was centuries beyond Earth's capabilities. They appeared everywhere, their formations perfect, their movements coordinated with deadly precision. "Impossible," Sun Mai screamed, her composure finally breaking. They were hiding their true capabilities. How do they have hyperspace technology? Her tactical officer, Minho, barely had time to report before the humans struck. Multiple signatures. They're using advanced targeting systems we've never seen before. Their weapon yields are off the charts. The human ships moved with devastating efficiency. They didn't just attack. They executed complex battle plans that suggested years of preparation. Each shot struck with surgical precision, disabling rather than destroying the Stellar Kingdom's vessels. "Get us out of here," Sun Mai ordered, but it was too late. Her ship shuddered as precision strikes disabled its engines and weapon systems. Across her fleet, other vessels suffered the same fate. The humans weren't just winning. They were systematically dismantling her entire attack force. A transmission cut through all their communication channels. A calm human voice spoke. "Stellar Kingdom forces, you have entered Earth's sovereign space with hostile intent. Your ships are now disabled. Prepare to be boarded. Please note that resistance will be met with increasingly creative solutions to your continued existence. Sun Mai watched in horror as human boarding craft approached her crippled fleet. Her ships, once the pride of the stellar kingdom, now floated helpless in space. But what truly terrified her wasn't the humans' superior technology. It was their efficiency. They had clearly been preparing for this exact scenario. Through the bridge windows, she could see Earth below. Cities continued their normal activities, their lights twinkling as if nothing unusual was happening. Their defense had been so overwhelming that most of the planet's population probably didn't even know they were under attack. Human Marines breached the hull of Sun Mi's flagship with ease, their advanced armor making them seem more like machines than living beings. They moved through the corridors with practiced precision, disabling security systems and subduing crew members with non-lethal weapons. When they reached the bridge, Sun Mi expected to face angry conquerors. Instead, the human commander removed his helmet and smiled. "Fleet Commander Sun Mi," he said pleasantly, "welcome to Earth. We've been expecting you." The human Marines efficiently secured the bridge crew, their movements suggesting they had trained specifically for capturing alien vessels. They even knew exactly how to disable the Stellar Kingdom's equipment and restrain different alien species safely. "How?" Sun Mi finally asked as she was led away. "How did you prepare so well for this?" The human commander chuckled. "You know what humans love more than anything: preparing for worst-case scenarios. We've been running simulations of alien invasions since before we had powered flight. By the time you showed up, we had centuries of theoretical preparation. You just helped us test our practical responses." As Sun Mi was escorted to a human vessel, she saw the true extent of Earth's military capability. Massive warships emerged from cloaked orbital docks. Defensive installations far more advanced than anything the Stellar Kingdom possessed powered up across the planet's surface. They had hidden not just their technology, but entire military installations. The human ship's interior was a marvel of engineering, combining technologies that should have been centuries apart in development. They hadn't just matched the Stellar Kingdom's technology, they had surpassed it in many ways. "Understand something," the human commander said as they approached Earth. "We could have destroyed your entire fleet. We chose not to. Remember that when you report back to your superiors." Sun Mi looked down at the planet she had so gravely underestimated. The humans hadn't just defeated her. They had done it so thoroughly and efficiently that it was clear they had been holding back even more capabilities. They had turned her attack into a training exercise, treating one of the galaxy's most powerful military forces like an amateur opponent. As her fate was being decided, Sun Mi finally understood what the Council's researchers had tried to warn everyone about. Humans hadn't just survived on their death world. They had thrived on its challenges, turned its hardships into advantages, and prepared for threats that hadn't even existed yet. They hadn't just developed technology. They had developed it in secret, always keeping their true capabilities hidden until they were needed. The galaxy would never be the same after this day. Earth hadn't just defended itself. It had announced its presence to the stars in a way that no one could ignore. And they had done it all while barely disrupting their planet's daily routine. The gleaming spires of the Earth Embassy rose high above the Galactic Council's capital city, its design a perfect blend of human ingenuity and alien aesthetics. The building itself told a story. Where other embassies were built to impress, Earth's embassy was constructed to endure. Its foundations could withstand earthquakes, its walls could deflect energy weapons, and its environmental systems could maintain human-comfortable conditions in any atmosphere. Ambassador Yoon-suk stood at the embassy's main entrance, watching the steady stream of alien diplomats arriving for the annual Galactic Conference. His diplomatic uniform was simple compared to the elaborate costumes of other species, yet he carried himself with quiet confidence. Earth no longer needed to prove itself to anyone. High Admiral Jin-ho, now retired and showing his age, made his way through the crowd. His once proud antennae now drooped slightly. "Ambassador," Jin-ho said softly, I've been meaning to speak with you for some time. He looked up at the massive embassy building. We were fools to laugh at Earth. I was the biggest fool of all. Yoon Suk smiled diplomatically, the same smile that had helped negotiate dozens of interstellar treaties. A common mistake, Admiral. People tend to underestimate what they don't understand. We're used to it. The busy spaceport above them hummed with activity as ships from across the galaxy arrived for the conference. Among them, Earth vessels moved with distinctive precision, their designs unlike anything else in space. They weren't the largest or the most decorated, but every species knew to treat them with respect. And now, Jin Ho asked, watching the human ship effortlessly dock in conditions that would challenge most pilots, what happens now that the galaxy understands what humanity truly is? Now, Yoon Suk replied, gesturing toward the sky. The galaxy understands that surviving Earth didn't make us weak. It made us who we are. Every challenge we faced, every obstacle we overcame, they all shaped us into something unique. Above them, Earth's first officially acknowledged interstellar fleet moved into formation. The ships weren't just for show. They were a reminder that the galaxy's most dangerous world had produced its most remarkable species. Their presence was both a promise of protection and a warning against aggression. Inside the embassy, humans worked alongside aliens from across the galaxy. What had once seemed impossible, creatures from different worlds working together, had become routine. Humans had proven remarkably adaptable at dealing with other species, turning their natural curiosity and determination toward building bridges instead of walls. You know, Jin Ho said thoughtfully, when we first discovered Earth, we thought your world would crush any civilization that tried to rise there. The gravity, the weather, the predators, we couldn't imagine life succeeding in such conditions. Yoon Suk nodded, remembering Earth's history. Instead, those conditions forced us to become stronger. Every challenge made us more determined. Every setback pushed us to innovate. We didn't just survive our death world. We mastered it. The ambassador led Jin Ho through the embassy's main hall, where displays showed scenes from Earth, mountains reaching into the clouds, cities sprawling across continents, ships sailing vast oceans, and rockets soaring into space. Each image demonstrated humanity's triumph over their demanding homeworld. Look at what we've achieved since joining the galactic community, Yoon Suk said proudly. We've helped develop new technologies, established trade routes, mediated conflicts between species, the very things that made Earth seem impossible to you. The challenges, the diversity, the constant change, prepared us perfectly for life among the stars. Jin Ho watched as a group of human children played with alien youngsters in the embassy's garden, their laughter transcending species barriers. You've changed everything, he admitted. The way we think about evolution, about civilization, about what's possible. That's what humans do, Yoon Suk replied with a gentle smile. We change things, we adapt, we grow, and we help others do the same. As the sun set over the capital city, casting long shadows across the embassy grounds, both human and alien looked to the stars visible through the atmospheric dome. Earth's fleet continued its silent patrol, a testament to humanity's journey from a species everyone laughed at to one everyone respected. Welcome to the new order, Yoon Suk said quietly, where the most dangerous world in the galaxy turned out to be exactly what we all needed. The galaxy had indeed changed. Earth had shown that strength could come from adversity, that determination could overcome any obstacle, and that the most remarkable species could emerge from the most challenging conditions. It wasn't just a new chapter in galactic history. It was the beginning of a whole new story.